Hey, this is Stephen Platinum, your friend in wrestling with Platinum versus Smackdown from December 4th, 2020. Smackdown continues to be this fascinating show to me because it's kind of the perfect juncture of interesting choices made combined with a lack of sort of forethought. And that's not always a bad thing. Sometimes things that feel very spontaneous can be great, and SmackDown is hitting more than they're missing. However, boy, the choices made are often very big, like giant swings in the booking. So it's worth looking at. I give it this, it is not boring, which is something that you could accuse Raw certainly of, and to a lesser extent NXT. So let's get into it. So we got SmackDown on Fox opening. We got the entire roster there to pay tribute to Pat Patterson. Graphic in memory of him. Vince McMahon and others are on stage. It's really great, including, I believe that's Gerald Briscoe, which is really cool. Just really lovely. We go to ringside, Michael Cole and Corey Graves. Cole asks everybody stand for a 10-bell salute. Thank you, Pat chant breaks out, and then we go to the SmackDown intro video. We're here at the Thunderdome, the Amway Center in Orlando. Michael Cole welcomes us. He hypes tonight's show and sends us right to the ring. Good call. Kayla Braxton is in the ring. Ah, geez Louise. Let's go right to the ring for a promo. She talks about the tag team main event, and she says her guest has agreed to this exclusive interview. She gives a huge introduction to Roman Reigns, the Universal Champ, and out he comes with Uso and Heyman. Jey Uso, that is. He gets pyro. People boo. They hype Reigns and Uso versus Kevin Owens and fucking Otis. Fucking Otis indeed, for later tonight. So we get some highlight packages. We get Jey attacking Otis from behind. We get Owens stopping Uso from attacking Daniel Bryan and all this kind of stuff. Basically, Reigns gets mad at Kayla, says that she blows it. Kayla asks if Reigns is using Jey as a pawn. He says that's stupid. Again, iterates that she's blowing this interview. Reigns tells Heyman to handle the amateur. It's a very long segment. It definitely gets a lot of stuff across. Owens challenges Reigns to a table, ladders, and chairs match at TLC. I love the phrase, it's going to be good for your career, Owens, to be on the island of relevancy. Pretty hilarious. They say they don't fear anybody. Owens really unloads verbally on Reigns. Reigns kind of takes it. So what's great is that they can let a babyface get over, but then there's always this simmering feeling of a ticking clock or a fuse being lit that later on they're going to have to pay for that. That's the kind of thing that Reigns has set up for himself, which is really good. So people can get themselves over, but with this idea that ultimately that dragon is going to breathe fire and eat you alive afterwards. We're going to have a Pat Patterson tribute match, which I think is a really great idea, with a bunch of baby faces: Big E, Daniel Bryan, Rey Mysterio against Dolph Ziggler, Shinsuke Nakamura, and Intercontinental Champion Sami Zayn. And we're going to have a war of the words sit down. Oh boy, that sounds awful, though that doesn't necessarily mean it will be, but between Carmella and the SmackDown Women's Champ, Sasha Banks. Bayley against Natalya. This seems like a foregone conclusion match, but before the match, again, they got to quit doing this. So they kind of get you ready mentally for a match, and then they go do something else that has nothing to do with that match really quick. And in this case, they're sort of confirming the TLC match with Reigns. It's just a bad way to book. It's just a bad way to present a TV show because you're always de-emphasizing the thing going on for another thing. They think it's extra promotion, but I mean, my God, like, ugh, terrible. So Bianca Belair is on commentary for the match. Natalya wins this match. And then we have a moment where Bianca Belair is mocking Bayley. Okay, well, it's different. And like I said, it just feels very haphazard, but it's not boring. Unfortunately, there's a legacy of this in wrestling. When you're doing things in a haphazard fashion for fear of being boring, but you're doing things that don't necessarily make sense, that's usually the beginning of things rolling downhill very quickly. So I would caution SmackDown and their writers to fucking come up with sort of definitive things to do, and reasons to do them, so it just doesn't feel so haphazard. We promote this Otis against Reigns and Uso thing again, and they're going to celebrate the life and legacy of Pat Patterson. So they show the video, the first ever Intercontinental title belt on display at ringside. And then we get the Patterson tribute match, which is really nice. Just sort of a good basic match. Everybody gets their time to shine. Daniel Bryan, Big E, and Rey Mysterio go over. Good stuff. Good stuff. The baby faces are celebrating. Ziggler, they do this kind of silly interplay with the heels and the faces on this. Ziggler tries to sucker punch Daniel Bryan, but he gets hit with an atomic drop. Ray nails the 619. Big E scoops up Ziggler for the big ending. And then they pay tribute to Patterson, and Bryan leads a yes chant. Okay, good feel-good shit. WWE doesn't do this kind of thing very often, and they should, and it looks good. Kayla's backstage with Kevin Owens. They bring up the TLC match again. Holy shit, can't say they're not promoting that match. Motherfuck. Yeesh. Carmella and Sasha Banks are in separate areas backstage getting ready for their segment where they're gonna talk. Back from the break, we get another video on Pat Patterson. Twitter tributes from various wrestlers. Super cool. They look back at Carmella's recent attacks on Sasha Banks and Banks' recent surprise attack. Banks spends a lot of her talking points. Again, whoever wrote this, it's kind of bad. I mean, she's just basically said, Carmella's never going to be on my level. And Carmella thinks Banks is jealous. Banks says Carmella can have a title shot if she wants it at TLC. Carmella laughs. So all of that to make a match. Okay. Murphy against King Baron Corbin. Oh boy. Match goes on for a long time. And of course, it's 50-50 booking. You know, Murphy went over last week. You could have predicted that King Corbin would go over this weekend. He does. Thanks to the help of Blake and Cutler. So now they're relevant again. Dominic and Ray are furious. They check on Murphy as Corbin, Blake, and Cutler stand together on the stage. Oh, good. We got a little brouhaha thing brewing. Not the worst thing ever. SmackDown Tag Team Champions, the Street Profits, are backstage hyping up the main event. Why? Will the winner get a shot at them? Of course not. Robert Roode comes up, talks about what he and Dolph Ziggler did to them last week. Cesaro appears. The verbal shots continue. They all yell. A lot of yelling. Otis and Kevin Owens against Roman Reigns and Jey Uso. Fascinating thing. Otis basically has to go to the back, leaving Owens on his own. And the long and short of it, Roman Reigns puts Kevin Owens in this guillotine choke, won't let it go. So the winners by DQ are technically Otis and Kevin Owens, but of course that's not the story. That's not what matters. Boy, really brutal stuff here. Reigns looks at Uso. Uso gets 2 steel chairs. Owens is crawling around trying to grab at Reigns' leg. They start waffling Owens with the chair. And then he tells Uso to finish Owens. Owens puts his chair on top of Owens. Uso puts his chair on top of Owens and gives him a big splash. It's very brutal. And then Reigns hits Uso with the chair. Jeez Louise. And then he just unloads on him with the chair. And then he places the title belt over Owens' body. And he talks more trash. Heyman is shocked. Reigns definitely out of control. Looks really great. Reigns says something along the lines of Owens tried to make him a monster and mess with his family. So Reigns is going to take Owens' manhood and his livelihood. And Owens and his family will fear Reigns. Referee's trying to get Reigns to back off, but he's standing tall over Owens and Uso. Fans chant, "You suck," at him. He raises the Universal title in the air. Woo! Strong, baby, strong. Again, if SmackDown, who has so many great things going for it, can just seem less disjointed and less, we got to shock you because this thing, I mean, it really does feel like a lot of it's just being booked at the very last minute. Yeah. But beyond that, SmackDown is certainly the more entertaining show than Raw, and it was fun tonight. The Reigns stuff is wackadoo. Bayley losing to Natalya was weird, and some segments absolutely did not work. But boy, they are definitely throwing stuff at the wall mighty hard. And if nothing else, it's fun to watch it splatter. This has been Platinum versus SmackDown from Stephen Platinum, your friend in wrestling.